Hello there and welcome back to my channel, or if this is the first video of mine you are seeing, then welcome. So my Walmart finally got this new palette from e.l.f. Cosmetics. I believe this was launched last year, but my Walmart is kind of slow when it comes to new makeup releases, so they just got this. I just picked this up, yeah, last week. I'll be posting this video this week. So last week was when I found it, and this is the Keep It Ethereal eyeshadow palette, which this is supposed to be a dupe, or a color story dupe, I should say, of the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes eyeshadow palette. I have the Mario palette right here, and I'm going to show you the color story of this one. Let's see if I can get these both into frame here. Like that right there. Kind of, the e.l.f. one's wanting to reflect a little bit. So if you can see the color stories right here. Now the only thing is this has 10 eyeshadows, the Mario one has 12, so there are 2 shades included in this one that this one does not have. But I'm going to tell you, I've already swatched this palette out. They're very, very similar in swatches. I will say that the matte shades in the Mario palette are much more pigmented than the ones in the e.l.f., but I mean, you can build up the ones from the e.l.f. as far as in a swatch, so we'll see how they perform on the eyes. I am going to be inserting the swatches right here for you so you can see them. The top swatches are the e.l.f. Cosmetics palette, and the bottom swatches are from the Mario palette. I mean, as you can see, very similar color stories. I feel like if you missed out on the Mario palette, because this palette is no longer available, it was limited edition. I know that he did bring it back 1 year, but then after that, I know now he has the Ethereal Eyes Moonlight palette, so you can't get this palette now. And I want to say when this one was out, it was it was between 65 and 70. I don't remember the exact price point, so we're just going to say 65-ish for just argument's sakes, and this is like $10. So I'm going to be doing a look. I'm going to be doing one palette on one eye and the other on the other eye, so let's see how this goes. Okay, I think I'm going to do the e.l.f. Cosmetics palette over here, and we're going to do the Mario palette over here. So the only thing I've done is put on some eyeshadow primer. I haven't set my lid yet. I'm going to actually use an eyeshadow in the palettes to do that with. It's not exactly my skin tone. It's a little bit, like maybe 1 shade darker, but I think it's going to work as a pretty good starter shade for me. So I am going to go in with this shade right here from the e.l.f. palette. And this is a blending brush from e.l.f. and I'm going to just press that kind of all over my lid just to set my eyeshadow primer. I was so excited to see this palette because whether or not it's a full-on dupe of the Mario palette, I know that the formula is not going to probably be like a dupe, but more like a color story dupe. I think it's nice to have the option, considering that this palette from Mario was limited edition, so if you missed out, or maybe you just did not want to pay that price point, you do have the option. Now, yes, you'd be short 2 shades, but I mean, you know, those might have been shades in the palette that you didn't really care that much about in the first place. Honestly, I feel like that's closer to my skin tone than I thought. I guess when I had to build it up a little bit in the swatch, it looked like it'd be a touch darker, but no, honestly, that's pretty good. Now, I'm going to take that same brush and I'm really going to wipe it off on my little silicone mat here because I just want to use the same brushes here for both palettes. Make sure that's completely cleaned off. And then we are going to take this shade in the Mario palette, which he just calls his EE1. Now the e.l.f. one doesn't have any names. Now his palette in the swatches was a lot more pigmented, so I didn't pick up as much on this brush. But I can always go back in if need be. You know, I should use this shade more often as a setter shade because it's more of my skin tone than I thought. And I feel like it blanks out my eyelids decently enough to where if I don't really want to wear eyeshadow that day, which I mean, I know this is an eyeshadow, but you know what I mean, this would actually be nice for that. Just put this on and then just some mascara. Because, you know, there's just some days where I don't want to wear eyeshadow. They both look good on the eyes. No issue so far. Okay, on a Sigma E24, I'm going to go in with this shade right here. And we're going to start placing that into my crease. You know, I think I have one other of these palettes from e.l.f. and I always really liked it. I had the video up on my channel. It's an older video. It's probably like from a year or two ago, and honestly, I want to say that's the same video I'm thinking of. It actually performed pretty well, which I was surprised that it did. I mean, you know, for my channel, because I am such a small account. Okay, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that on camera, but it's like a really soft shade. I am going to build it up. We're going to place that to the crease again, just building it up some. This video, I'm going to wipe my brush off a little bit on my silicone mat now. This video will be going up this Friday, so in case you missed it, I did have an extra video go up this week. That video went up on Friday. It was my update, or my first update in my No Pan Left Behind. So if you missed that, and you're interested in No Pan Left Behind content, make sure you check that out. Of course, I do have my playlist link for you below where I did start a playlist for my No Pan Left Behind. So if you're interested, it will be there as well in the description box. Okay, because I am using this again today, this NYX product, I am not going to use a powder to get anything out here. I'm just going to leave it be and just let that do like the cleanup work, because I noticed that the last time I used that, it did not lay well over the powder, so we're just going to leave it alone out there and clean that up with like my corrector and concealer. Okay, we clean that brush again. Just want to make sure that everybody sees that, so I'm not cheating. And then we're going to go in with the Mario palette, and we're going to go in with this shade right here. And same thing, I'm going to run that all into my crease. I will say that the Mario eyeshadows are, at least the mattes, are more pigmented than the e.l.f. ones, so you do have to build up the e.l.f. shadows just a little bit more to get the fuller pigment. Not a big deal for me. I honestly like layering eyeshadows more so anyway, but I just want to mention anything I'm noticing. I picked up just a tiny bit more, just to place out here, because I feel like most of the pigment went in this inner part, so I'm going to add a little bit right here as well. Okay, I'm going to go in with a Sigma E54, and I'm going to go in with this shade right here in the e.l.f. palette. And I'm going to start placing that shade out here on my outer corner, or the outer half of my lid. Okay, I dip back into that palette a little bit more just to build this up. These shades definitely apply it with a lot more pigment with your finger, but I'm just trying to keep this more precise to where I want it on the eye. That's pretty. Honestly, I would want that all over the lid. We wipe that brush off, and I'm going to go into this shade right here from the Mario palette. And same thing, we're going to place this on the outer half of my lid. Now, with this shade, I will say that using the brush, because I know these shades would perform better with your finger, but I had to dip back in more on this side with the Mario palette than I did the e.l.f. when it comes to the shimmer shades. You can kind of see where we're at right now. Alright, we're going to go into this shade right here using that same E54. We're going to place that right here. Wow, that's pretty. Wow, look at that. Okay, e.l.f. That's beautiful. Same brush, and we're going to go in with this shade right here. Honestly, I feel like the e.l.f. one is brighter. Let me build up this one a little bit more. Still very pretty. The e.l.f. one is much more intense than the Mario one. But honestly, they're still both very pretty. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that either of them, you know, because so far, I like the elf one, and I always did like the Mario one, so I'm not going to sit here and say that, the Mario one is bad compared to the elf. No, I think they're both beautiful. So this is just a matter of you can't purchase this palette anymore unless you bought it secondhand from like Mercari or somewhere, and then I feel like I can only imagine those prices that people are charging for this palette knowing you can't get it anymore. So this was really just to compare to see if you could create very similar looks. And yeah, I think you definitely can. And these shades are definitely much more intense than the shimmer shades in the Mario one. So if you like more of an intense shimmer, then yeah, you will love the e.l.f. Okay, so I'm going to go in with the NYX Pro Fix Stick Correcting Concealer. This one's in the shade Fair. I'm just going to take a brush and kind of apply that right in here. I'm trying not to pick up as much this time because the last time I used this, I picked up a little bit too much. And then I like to take my finger and make sure that's nice and pressed down. My mirror's a little bit further away from me, so I need to come in a little bit closer and see how we're looking. Okay, and then I'm going to take the NYX Bare With Me Serum Concealer. This one's in the shade Light. Just need the teeniest bit. I mean, that much. And then look how pigmented that is. The tiniest bit of this goes a long way. I think I was a little too harsh on the little Pro Fix stick in my last video, or well, the video before that one, because I feel like as long as I'm using a small amount of it and then I do place something else on top, it doesn't look bad. I think just the shade kind of throws me off a little bit. It is very pale, and I think at first it just gives that really brightness effect that kind of, makes me take a step back, but I don't know, I think I was a little too harsh on it. Okay, I'm going to go back in with this shade right here from the e.l.f. palette on a small angled brush from e.l.f. And we're just going to run that all the way across. And then same thing with the Mario palette, we're going to take this same shade right here. And apply that to the lower lash line on this side. Okay, and then I'm going to go back in with this shade right here. And we're going to pop that on this inner corner and then place that up in here as well. Then we're going to take this shade from the Mario palette. And same thing on the inner corner and swoop in here a little bit. So here are these eye looks. We have the e.l.f. and the Mario. So what do we think? Okay, I'm going to do the rest of my makeup and I will be right back and we'll talk about these. Okay, so this is the final look. So just right quick, the blush I'm wearing is from Tower 28. This is their Beach Please Cream Blush in Magic Hour, and then I also have that on my lips as well because you can use this on your cheeks and your lips, so that's all I'm wearing. So let's talk about these eyeshadow palettes. I know that I've only created one look each, but of course I'm going to be continuing to use this e.l.f. palette as well, but I mean, I will say, yeah, they're very, very similar. I feel like you can definitely create the same looks with the e.l.f. palette that you can from the Mario. So if you missed out on the Mario palette and then maybe you hated it because you really love this color story, try the e.l.f. I think that you would be just as happy with this as you would be with this. Now, yes, this has 2 more shades in it than this one does, but I mean, I don't think you'd probably miss them that much, but I mean, yeah. You definitely can create a very similar eye look because, I mean, yeah, these look very similar. I will say that while the mattes are more pigmented from the Mario palette, I feel like the shimmers are more pigmented from the e.l.f. palettes. But all in all, I thought this was a really beautiful palette. I have tried some of these palettes in the past. I know I have 1 or 2 in my collection, and always really good quality. I really enjoy these palettes, and I've always loved the Mario palette as well. So yeah, I think that if you are interested, I don't think you'd be disappointed with this at all. If you like this color story, I think you'd really enjoy it. I think it's beautiful. This eye look is really pretty. The way the shades blended out, everybody performed really good. So yeah, I think that if you want a color dupe for that palette, look no further than e.l.f. Cosmetics because that's a really beautiful palette. But I do hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, I hope you will please consider leaving a like, a comment, or subscribing if you haven't already. Make sure you hit the bell icon so you are alerted to all my future uploads. All these products will be listed and linked for you below. They are affiliate links, so if you click through and purchase, I do earn a small commission, and if you choose to do so, thank you so much for supporting me and my channel, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!